What if I told you that the secret to successful leadership might lie not in ideals of virtue, honesty, or compassion, but in a brutal understanding of human selfishness? Imagine a world where trust is weakness, where morality is optional, and where power belongs not to the just, but to the shrewd. This isn't the world of dystopian fiction. This is the world Niccolò Machiavelli paints in his iconic works The Prince and Discourses on Livy. For centuries, Machiavelli has been both condemned and praised, revered as the father of modern political science and vilified as a cynical manipulator. But the real question is this: was Machiavelli a pessimist who had lost all faith in humanity? Or was he simply a pragmatic observer of how people really behave? Welcome to the unfolding journey, where we explore history, philosophy, and the hidden truths shaping our world. Today, we're diving deep into Machiavelli's mind, questioning whether his infamous view of human nature was one of despair or one of practical wisdom. Grab your curiosity, and maybe a copy of The Prince, because we're about to explore what Machiavelli really thought about human beings and why it still matters today. To understand Machiavelli's views, we need to understand his context. Born in 1469 in Florence, Italy, Machiavelli lived during one of the most turbulent periods in European history, marked by political instability, foreign invasions, and the collapse of the Florentine Republic. Power shifted hands frequently, and noble ideals rarely stood up to the harsh realities of governance. In this environment, traditional political theory, rooted in Christian virtue and classical idealism, seemed naive. Machiavelli, disillusioned by the instability he witnessed, sought to craft a political philosophy grounded not in what should be, but in what is. This realpolitik approach made him a controversial figure, but also a trailblazer. In The Prince, 1513, perhaps Machiavelli's most famous and controversial work, he offers advice to rulers on how to acquire and maintain power. One of the recurring themes in the book is the idea that humans are fundamentally self-interested, fickle, and driven by fear and ambition. Take, for instance, this quote: "Men are ungrateful, fickle, false, cowardly, covetous, and as long as you succeed, they are yours entirely." This sounds harsh, even misanthropic. But Machiavelli wasn't interested in flattering the human species. He wanted leaders to govern effectively, and that meant seeing people not as idealized citizens, but as they truly are. He advises princes to be ready to act immorally if necessary, to lie, manipulate, and even betray, because in a world of self-interested individuals, virtue alone is not enough to survive. But does this make him a pessimist? While The Prince has often been interpreted as a manual for tyranny, Machiavelli's Discourses on Livy provides a broader and more democratic perspective. In this text, he examines the Roman Republic, praising its institutional balance and civic virtue. He still maintains a skeptical view of human nature, but argues that well-designed institutions can channel selfish impulses into productive outcomes. Here he writes, "It is necessary to whoever arranges to found a republic and to make laws for it, to presuppose that all men are bad and that they will use their malignity of mind every time they have the opportunity." Again, we see the distrust in human virtue. But rather than despairing, Machiavelli sees this as a foundational assumption upon which strong institutions can be built. If people are self-interested, then political systems must be designed to harness, check, and balance these tendencies, not pretend they don't exist. This is where his pragmatism shines through. He's not saying people are monsters, he's saying they're human. And being human means being driven by survival, ambition, fear, and personal gain. Let's pause and ask, what do we mean when we call someone a pessimist? A pessimist sees the worst in every situation and often believes things cannot improve. A pragmatist, on the other hand, sees the world as it is and makes decisions based on that reality, however uncomfortable it may be. Machiavelli, while blunt and even brutal in tone, doesn't wallow in despair. He doesn't advise rulers to give up or retreat from public life. Quite the opposite. He equips them to navigate the challenges of leadership more effectively. His emphasis is always on practical outcomes. Consider this famous quote: "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." To a moralist, this may sound cynical, but to a ruler trying to maintain control in a volatile environment, it's a realistic guideline. Machiavelli isn't celebrating cruelty. He's recognizing that fear, unlike love, can be controlled and deployed strategically. In this way, his view of human nature is not hopeless. It's grounded in observation. And for Machiavelli, once you understand human nature, you can predict behavior, manage risk, and govern successfully. So why does this matter today? Because Machiavelli's realism continues to influence political strategy, leadership, and even corporate behavior centuries later. Political leaders from Napoleon to Bismarck, from Churchill to Kissinger, have studied The Prince for its sharp insights into power and human motivation. Modern political campaigns rely on psychological insights about voter behavior, many of which echo Machiavellian assumptions. Even in business, leaders often navigate corporate landscapes by understanding that loyalty can be conditional, that appearances matter, and that success sometimes requires hard choices. In all of this, Machiavelli's core message holds firm. Don't rely on what people should do. Anticipate what they will do. Of course, Machiavelli has his critics. The term Machiavellian has become synonymous with deceit, manipulation, and ruthless ambition. But this label often ignores the broader complexity of his work. Machiavelli wasn't advocating evil for evil's sake. He believed that the ends, such as political stability or national unity, could justify means that traditional morality might reject. In fact, one could argue that his philosophy was rooted in a kind of civic patriotism. He wanted Italy to be strong, unified, and free from foreign domination. His insights into human nature were tools to achieve those ends, not excuses for tyranny. Interestingly, modern behavioral psychology supports many of Machiavelli's conclusions. Studies show that people often act out of self-interest, conform to authority, and make decisions based on emotion over logic. We may not like this reality, but it aligns with what Machiavelli observed 5 centuries ago. He was in many ways ahead of his time, not because he believed people were evil, but because he accepted the limitations of human virtue. And in doing so, he offered strategies not for perfect societies, but for functional, stable ones. So, was Machiavelli a pessimist? Not quite. He was a realist, maybe even an optimist in disguise. By accepting the truth about human nature, he believed we could design better political systems, make smarter decisions, and create more resilient societies. His work is not a rejection of morality, but a challenge to moral naivete. It asks us to stop pretending that people are always good, and instead prepare for when they are not. In a world where leaders still grapple with complex moral choices and unpredictable human behavior, Machiavelli's voice echoes loudly, reminding us that effective leadership often begins with uncomfortable truths. Thanks for watching. If you found this exploration of Machiavelli's views thought-provoking, don't forget to like, share, and comment below with your thoughts. Was he a realist, a cynic, or something more? And remember to subscribe to The Unfolding Journey for more deep dives into history, philosophy, and the ideas that shape our world. Your curiosity is the compass. We're just here to help guide the way. Until next time, keep asking bold questions and keep unfolding the journey.